I'm Alex from BSC Designer, and in this video we're going to talk about business continuity, about strategy template for business continuity in the context of COVID-19. And in the end, we'll also share some strategic planning best practices. So let's start with the template for business continuity. First of all, just to mention that this template is available in the free plans, so no need to buy any software. You can get it with a free plan of BSC Designer. So how to get this template? You need to sign up with an account in BSC Designer online. If you already have an account, just log in. And once you're inside, you need to go to new scorecard, then pick this option, more templates, and you will see this template, COVID-19. Okay, so what this template is about? You will see several tabs like KPI, strategy map, dashboard, and all these alerts. And the most interesting part is here on the strategy map tab. And we're going to discuss what is there and how to use it. So this is an example of the template for business continuity with in the context of the COVID-19. And this is a classical balanced scorecard template. So let me start with commenting some of its part. So first of all, we have here 4 perspectives. And what are these perspectives? So learning and infrastructure perspective. That's where we will discuss our goals related to the skills and infrastructure that your company need to address in this crisis. The next perspective is the internal business processes perspective. And basically here we're going to talk about the business systems that your organization need to implement in order to satisfy the needs of stakeholders effectively. And stakeholders perspective. Here we're going to talk about the needs of the stakeholders. And in this case, who are the stakeholders? Of course, the customers of your organization, of your company, your employees, your partners, your investors, some government authorities. That's the stakeholders in the case of business continuity strategy. And finally, the financial perspective, where we'll talk about some financial goals, some financial nuances of the strategy. That's it. Now, you have a part of strategy map, and I'm going to give some comments so that it is easier to read this map. You will notice that some of the goals are marked with different colors. And what are these colors? These colors reflect different strategic themes where those goals belong to. So the whole strategy is typically classically divided into 3 or 4 strategic themes that help us to manage with the goals. And in this case, the strategic themes are the classical ones related to customer needs, customer intimacy, related to operations excellence, and related to the product. So the different colors explain us the strategic theme where the goal belongs to. Now, the rectangles that we will see are the business goals. And we'll also see lines like this aligned with the business goals. Like in this case, I see the green line, awareness program penetration %, and the gray line, % of practices actually implemented. So these are, I can see it in the legend, leading and lagging indicators. So why do we have these indicators? In this case, we're moving from different higher level of abstraction which are our strategic themes, to a lower level of abstraction, the goals. Yeah. And to make the goals even more specific, we need to define the indicators that we're going to use to measure them. Once we make the goals measurable, we make them really, really specific. And we measure the goals using two types of indicators. We measure our efforts, leading indicators, and we also validate our results, the logging indicators. So the leading and the logging indicators. And you also notice that there are a lot of lines with this clipboard icon, and those are initiatives. So, for example, we have here goal, align IT systems, and that's quite a vague goal, and how exactly we are going to achieve this goal. In this case, we have two initiatives, enabling work from home and the IT infrastructure that helps us to keep stakeholders informed. So basically, two initiatives that make the goal more specific. Now, if all this sounds something confusing for you, if you're not familiar with strategy maps, I will share in the description for this video the link to a strategy maps guide that we have, actually 8 steps to create a strategy map. And we'll also talk about 8 typical mistakes during this process. So if you're interested, you can check out this guide. And there you will also find some more examples of the strategy maps for a case you want to develop some other strategy maps for your organization. Now let's talk about different goals in different perspectives in this continuity strategy template. So we'll start from the bottom, from loading and infrastructure perspective. So the first goal, educate employees on COVID-19. I think the goal is clear. There are a lot of information from government authorities, from medical authorities, and from the business viewpoint, it's important to reflect this information, to understand how all this is and can be applied to the realities of your organization, to realities of your business. Again, we have 2 indicators that will help us to measure our efforts in this context: the awareness penetration, the penetration of awareness program, that will show how effectively you are spreading information among your employees. I guess with current media coverage, it won't be a problem. And the lagging indicator will show how effectively is that information implemented. We're going to look at the percent of practices that were actually implemented. Yeah, because, well, it's obvious if you tell people that they need to wash their hands, it doesn't mean that that 100% of people are going to follow these policies. So it's important to not just to track our efforts, but also try to track the results, the actual behavior changes. The next goal is to conduct global scenario planning. Again, it's a relatively vague goal, but we have added here some initiatives that will direct your thoughts, direct your discussions about this topic. So the first initiative is identify business risks posed by coronavirus. And the question is how to do this. Yeah. And in the template, you will find that for this initiative, you have some additional details. You have this document list with a link to PESTEL analysis. I'm sure you're familiar with PESTEL analysis. That involves the analysis of external factors. And during this crisis, it's more than relevant to repeat this analysis. And again, if you're using BSC Designer, you can just save the results of this analysis into your account just to have them ready for some future cases. Update succession plans. So any important role in your organization should have this plan. The business resiliency plans, again, it's hard to give a recommendation without knowing your organization, but it's a good idea to have one. And this will be a kind of strategic response to the virus threat. And more tactical response will be the last initiative, is to identify impact on operations. So basically, you need to understand what operations in your organization are under the risk today and might be under the risk in future, under risky conditions. The next goal, align IT systems. So basically, in the context of IT systems, most organizations will face two challenges. One is to organize remote work, organize remote teams, and enable your employees to work from home. It will require some technical setup. It will require some regulations, some policies, many things. So most of them are in the competency of IT department. And another important thing that IT will have to solve is to keep stakeholders informed. So probably you used some mail lists, some social accounts before, and it was fine. But during that crisis time, probably you will need to send some emergency messages. Probably you will need to get your employees to know some information faster. So it's a challenge for IT. And again, we measure it with some WOC indicator like IT infrastructure readiness. The next goal, introduction to work from home. For some employees, this will come naturally. Like for software developers, it's nothing new to work from home. For some employees, you will need to invest some time in explaining what you expect from them. And this is shown here within these two initiatives. One is where you explain to a team how you're going to communicate. Will you use voice over IP? Will you use some software? Will you use some Kanban board or something like this? And another important thing to define is how we're going to review the performance of the remote work. So what indicators you are going to use. Again, for us, we're working remotely as a remote team for a long time. That's not a new topic. And on our website, you will find an article. I share the link here in the initiative, in the document list for this initiative, where basically we share our experience of working together like a remote team, sharing some indicators. So you can have a look at that article and probably use some indicators that we're also using. So that's the goals from the learning infrastructure perspective. The login indicator for this goal will be the percent of employees who pass this work from home training, awareness training. So again, it's quite WOC indicator, but it's some starting point. Now let's move to internal perspective. Here, the goal from learning and infrastructure perspective is linked to this goal from internal perspective, workforce protection, because that makes sense. What we do in the learning infrastructure perspective, educating employees on COVID-19, is to ensure workforce protection. Yeah, so that's what we see by linking these two goals. The result of that goal is shown here as a leading indicator. That's one thing. And we also have two initiatives. The obvious one, implementing social distancing policy. That's what is suggested by most of the local authorities. And of course, implementing travel restrictions. So it's a good idea to link to specific policies here so that your team knows what you are talking about. And what is missing here is some indicator to measure the actual effectiveness of workforce protection. On our website, you'll find a scorecard template for safety KPIs. So probably that template will resonate with most of the challenges that you will face, and you can reuse the indicators from that template. The next goal, supply chain stabilization. That's a challenging goal for most organizations that outsource their production to China, to Asia, and how to solve this challenge, the challenge with the supply chain. Well, basically, we have three directions to work with. One, we can find alternative sources of supply, not in China, but probably in some other countries in Asia or in Europe. Two is to probably, if we can still get something from China, it's a problem to get it to a country, to get it to a production factory. So evaluating alternative logistics is another option. And three, we need to revise the policy related to inventories that we have implemented, probably increasing the inventory, probably using different inventory, or moving it from some storehouses closer to the production factory, depends on your organization. Again, on our website, you'll find some KPIs for warehousing that will help your organization, hopefully, to make this shift more effectively. So all these KPIs are available online. You can just follow the link, and I will share this link in the description for this video. The next goal. So we had align IT systems goals in the learning and infrastructure perspective, and it contributes to this goal in internal perspective. Keep stakeholders up to date. That's one of the challenges of IT, that we have to maintain stakeholders informed. Because, well, people care, people want to know more information about how a business addresses the crisis, and that's the way to make sure that things are happening. How to reflect this, how to make this goal more specific, keeping stakeholders up to date. In this template, in this example, we added two indicators. One is time to communicate. So now it's 12 hours and it's supposed to be in green zone. And if I go to KPIs tab and pick this indicator, time to communicate, on the data tab, I will see that how it is set up. So the current value is 12 hours, the baseline was 48 hours, and the target is 4 hours. And if I switch to performance tab, I will see that the optimization for this indicator is set to minimize value linearly. It means that we want to respond faster, want to minimize the value of this indicator, not 12 hours, but to get to 4 hours. So that's the setup for this indicator. And another indicator shows us if the communications that we send out are actually contextual. What does it mean? It means that we're not just saying employees what they have to do, but we're trying to explain why they need to do this. We're trying to explain the context of the certain message that we send. It's important because in this way, people understand any message much better. And finally, we have this goal, work from home. The inputs from this goal are coming from the two goals, align IT systems and introduction to work from home. Actually, I see that a login performance of this goal is now here as a leading indicator. And login performance of IT systems, 82%, is here as a leading factor for this goal. That shows, these two indicators show the efforts of our team. What about the results? The results can be measured by such indicators as percent of positions that where the remote work is possible, then the percent of positions where that work remotely compared to their jobs that can potentially be done remotely, and of course the tools and materials availability. So that's how we make this goal more specific. Working from home, the inputs are having IT system ready, having some basic introduction training, and the login metrics are tools and materials availability, and the percent of jobs that actually move to remote working style. Stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders in this case? Our customers, of course, our employees, yeah, because even if you close a front store, probably there will be people in office who will be doing some important things. So we need to make sure that these people are also have a safe work environment. Partners, well, they're not in your office, but they need to have some information. They need to understand what changes will be affecting your business. Investors, the same. Authorities, well, at least you need to get information from authorities and implement this information. And in some cases, you also need to report, you need to contribute in some way. That's what we have here on the strategy map template. We have these two goals for the mostly focus on employees and customers. So for customers, we supposed to create some emergency channels of communications to be able to communicate to customers effectively, especially in the crisis time. And for employees, of course, we need to provide employees with a safe workplace if remote work is not possible. And we need to keep them informed about the resilience plan for the business. And if we want to do it well, we need to anticipate the needs of employees in their daily life, like healthcare needs, educational needs, other daily needs, because of course they will be affected. The financial perspective, we have not much to do here. The first thing to do is to identify the impact of the crisis on our organization, what we can expect from the viewpoint of revenue, from viewpoint of costs, and probably if there is some applicable insurance policy, we can analyze what are the conditions and so on and so forth. So that the strategy map template, again, it's not something that you can use from scratch, but that's a starting point for your own analysis. So you can sign up with a software and use it inside the software, or you can just download a picture file of this template and use it with a on paper version. It's also possible. Just what I mentioned in the beginning, that these and other templates that I have mentioned are available in our free plans for BSC Designer. So you can access them right now. We also mentioned in the beginning that we're going to share 6 strategic planning best practices. And we were thinking about how the crisis time is impacting the strategic planning. And that's our 6 best practices that we have in mind. Again, it's nothing new, but I think it makes sense to look at them again, especially during this crisis time. Best practice 1 is to focus strategy discussion. How to do this? Imagine that now we have to follow social distancing, and we cannot probably get into the boardroom and discuss all the nuances, all the details, or at least we cannot do it often. How to do this? How to focus strategy discussion in this condition? Again, nothing new. We need to create a good strategy map that we can share with our team using some informational system, and use this map as a base for the discussion. I will link to the strategy map guide where we discuss 8 best practices to create strategy maps. So having this map is good, well, in any time, and in crisis time, and even if you're in a blue ocean situation, it's a good idea to have a strategy map. Best practice 2 is to conduct analysis of the threats, analysis of external factors. Again, nothing new about this. You have a PESTEL template, PESTEL analysis. Probably you have it implemented in your organization. If not, you will find a template among other templates in BSC Designer account, so you can use it. The next best practice is to track and forecast KPIs. Okay, I guess any organization is tracking some kind of metrics or KPIs. And the thing here is that during crisis time, we might see some KPIs fluctuate a lot. Yeah, we might see some rapid drops and unexpected changes in the KPIs. It's a good idea to set up some alerts, some notifications. So if something happens, you get an early warning signal about this. The ideas, the best practices that were discussed before, the 1, the 2, the 3, they're more like the analysis of the situation. And what we actually need to do, what we always need to do, is to come up with some response, with some plan. So if I see that there is some threat, we need to reflect it into the response plan. If I see that some KPI is changing rapidly, what should we do about this? So we come up with a response plan. Users of BSC Designer will be able to write down the ideas about this in the initiatives, in the comments for the KPIs, for the goals. And I think it's a good idea to have these plans ready and to align them with your business goals, with your challenges. Best practice 5, no KPIs for remote work. So remote work and social distancing is a reality today, and more people will work from home. And we want to keep this work organized. We want to make sure that people know what is expected from them, that they understand the goals and the challenges. And on the other hand, we want to have a control over what they produce, over the results of their job. Again, in the description, we'll share the link to the article where we discuss some KPIs for remote work. Probably they will help you to organize remote work effectively. And another thing, the final best practice that I wanted to recommend, it's in the competence of a corporate government. Yeah, so the number 4, the response plans, is something operative, something that you need to implement probably right now in the near future horizon. The business resiliency plan is something longer scale. So probably the corporate governments need to discuss how all the current events will affect business in long term, and how the business can be prepared for future events like this. So that's what I wanted to share with you, these 6 best practices for strategic planning in the context of this COVID-19 threat. What's next? Well, that's all. I do recommend for you to sign up with a free account at webbc.com. You will find, you go to new, then select more templates, and you will find COVID-19 template, as well as some other templates, including the last one I see here on this screenshot, the KPIs for remote team. And also check out some links to some articles that we'll share in the description for this video. I hope you will find something that will help to make the work during this crisis time more effective, and will reduce the stress of passing through this crisis period. Thank you for your time. And should you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment under the video or contact our customer support team.